Okay, so the content warning on this game, this is called A Twisted Place. It is by Rana Strange, who I've done games from before. I'll give you the couple that we did. Would You Like to Cook? I've played by this developer. Um, yeah, I think that was the most recent one. Was Would You Like to Cook? Is what I played from them. Um, and this game has a content warning for self-loathing thoughts, suicide, and grief. It is a dark, linear horror interactive fiction with themes of self-worth and suicide, with photographic environmental art taken from the abandoned Bradmill factory site. Let's go ahead and check it out. I walk towards a twisted place. Breathe. Oh, okay, there's audio. There we go. The chilly air tastes faintly of dead foliage. This place. This place was condemned. The council deemed it a public health hazard 10 years ago. There's now only three ways into this place. And we got the choice of the river, the bridge, or the road. Let's go for the river. There's a small stream running around the back. It's a popular dumping site. I waded through the shallows. My jeans are still damp. Approach. The air seems to grow warmer as I approach the main building, the Weston Firth building. Whenever I visited before, it had always been empty, but voices can always be seen on the walls. The factory. The factory was built over a century ago. This wasn't a mill town, but it was damn near close. Almost everyone who lived in Dauber Flats worked in the factory, making textiles and engine parts. Let's go with closed. It was closed before I was born, or when I was young. I can't remember. Enter. The air suddenly turns stagnant as I step inside the factory. A rusty metal fan slowly drifts in the wind above. The others. Others have come before. They'd sneak out, one day or one night. They weren't ever sure that what would happen if they got there, or when they got there, but they knew where they were going. Let's go with my flatmate. I share a flat with someone I found through the internet, though I'm not technically on the lease. Nadia is cis, but seemed cool. We split the rent. Well, used to, anyway. She just disappeared one day, but we all knew where she went. The rivulet. I follow along a narrow gutter clogged with rubbish. Toxicity. I always felt I was toxic. I lost my barista job due to a conflict with one of my coworkers that I was unable to resolve without coming off as passive aggressive. I never meant to, of course, but maybe toxic people don't have a choice. How do I know I'm toxic? I've been called it twice directly, but it's usually in a more indirect manner. People who like X are toxic. If you claim to be Y without a real diagnosis, you're toxic. I feel like asbestos. Asbestos is a natural occurring toxic substance. They built a lot of the old buildings in this town with it, including this factory. Prolonged exposure to asbestos fibers causes lacerations to the lungs, and over time stops your body from being able to fight tumors. In the 80s, they tried to assure people that asbestos cement had somehow reformed those toxic fibers, and that it was thus safe. This was untrue. I enter the main hall of the warehouse, a massive space decorated with art and words and stories. I always struggle to be productive. When your average libshit politician used the word. I didn't care, but hearing it from other leftists hurt on a deep level. Let's go with work. Ever since losing my barista job, I struggled to find work. It felt like it was just luck that got me there in the job in the first place. I've been shuffled through different employment agencies since, but only via obligation. The agencies were even more unenthused as I was. I approached the spot where the concrete opens up slightly to reveal dirt. We spoke of the place below before the town went to shit. before everything grew quiet. I move over to the edge and sit down. A burden. I felt like a burden for a long time, I'm afraid. I felt like I've not been able to put out what I could to the world. Nadia. Nadia felt the same in the last couple of days since I'd seen her. She tried to get her books sent off to several publishers. They all rejected her. She had a job at her aunt's hair salon, but she quit it because she felt like her aunt only gave her a job out of nepotism. Since then, since she's been gone, the flat has felt quiet. I feel awful having to do it, but I borrowed her car a couple of times to get groceries. Is that all she was to me? Means of lodging in a car? But the factory. But the factory has grown warmer for what she's done. It grew warmer whenever someone made the journey. Let's descend. As I descend into the depths of the twisted place, I see the air is damp and warm, but much of it resembles the factory above. Melted, distorted, but an impressive facsimile nonetheless. This place has always predated the factory, but it has adopted much of its form. It may likely remain still even once the factory is entirely gone. Let's explore. I explore the warm underground, not knowing exactly which way to go. I go forward, even as I am not entirely sure what forward is. That way. I choose a path at random, continuing onward as directionless as my life has always been. The walls. The walls appear to undulate, and the fetid air passes through the hallway. But at least I can be sure of the way now. Attempted. I generally say I've attempted suicide multiple times, diagnosed with suicide ideation. But does that really mean that I can be definitely 100% sure that I want to die? Before I continue on, I just want to put this out there. How can I tell? All the times I've tried, I've never succeeded, and yet others have. Was I insincere in my convictions? I can't really know if I've succeeded, obviously. So there's survivor's bias. But people talk about how those who are really suicidal will just do it. The alternative. The alternative would be that I'm just doing it for attention. It scares me so much, because it would mean I was lying to people I care about, and co-opting the pain of those who were actually true with their convictions. I actually went through with it and succeeded. The knot. The only way to cut that Gordian knot, to be sure that I meant it, would be to die. But then would my life be just a complete waste? Would I continue to hurt people in death? There's only one way I can fix this, to try to make up for all the hurt I've caused. Step forward. The corridor opens up into a massive chamber looking over some intricate pipework above or below, with no bottom inside. This is the mouth. The deep. I didn't intend to feed myself into the deep at first. None of us did. Not fully. But over time it started to feel like the only way I could have any worth. The town had grown quiet, but it hungers still. I've come this far. I've come this far. There's no going back. I don't want to be a useless coward who can't go through with it. I need to throw myself in and let this twisted place grow warm with the remaining warmth left in my body. Oh, hate this. Hate this. I leap off the edge, plummeting as I embrace the fact that I will be used to fuel this creature, this infernal factory. I'll finally have a purpose even if it destroys my flesh completely. Down. I will finally have meaning. The twisted place. The twisted place grows warmer. Okay, so this is a little note from the author. With this game, I wanted to explore thoughts and feelings I've been going through about the urge to feel productive and worries about even my own suicidality not being genuine enough. They're fucked up, and I hope the reader can identify how and why they're fucked up. Struggled a lot with justifying my own existence myself, and I never had any employment at all. Before, I knew deep down that I shouldn't need to justify my own existence, of course, but I feel still that I don't put out as much stuff as I could, and that my own creative works aren't good enough to offset my lack of productivity. That feeling is what the deep and the twisted place are supposed to represent, and that need to have a purpose and to do everything you can to be productive in order to justify yourself, even at the expense of your own physical and mental well being. I did ponder about giving a possible good ending, but I felt like this could undermine the meaning of the ending. After all, if it's a choice given to the player, most people would choose not to kill the player character unless they were especially curious. The photos used in the game were taken at a local factory called Bradmill. I wanted to fictionalize the setting, though, in order to separate the characters from myself. All right, so yeah, there's no good ending on this. That kind of hit hard, I will say. Um, which I mean, that's the way this stream is that there will be games that will be a little bit more lighthearted, and there's some that are very emotional, and that this is why I let content warnings beforehand to let people know. Um, and of course, yeah, if you are struggling with depression or are contemplating suicide yourself, I do have a command that will provide you a link to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So, um, yeah, so that was a Twisted Place. If you want to check this game out yourself, let me get you a link. It is a free game, but there is a link to support the author if you so choose. Yeah. Okay, so that was a Twisted Place.